zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't.
Whale. Welcome back to Krown's Kiddo Cave for your early clickbait mornings over here from Helsinki, Finland. Hopefully you're waking up for a nice early cup of coffee with myself, and I've actually already enjoyed a couple, but if you're coming back from a late night in the Western Hemisphere, well, I want to welcome you to a nice morning as well. I didn't do anything last night. I went to bed before 9:30, but today's a fun day because I want to follow up on the live trade that we took on Twitch yesterday and some big fat price action for Bitcoin. In fact, with the last 2-day closing and the weekly for CME's closing, we do have some pretty interesting things to be talking about. We also do have the clickbait to be announced as well, something that hasn't happened in over like 2 or 3 months now, for the first time happening yesterday or being confirmed yesterday. So I want to follow up on that as well. Some cool things to be spoken about, and realistically, I do think that we're going to be looking at some nice price action in this coming week as we get into the middle of January, which is that first sort of positioning of a price action where I actually do think it's possible for a legitimate breakout or breakdown from this current major range. So with that said, I want to remind myself to talk about the Twitch live streams. We've been doing those pretty much every day. I might not do one today. I haven't really decided just yet. I need to go shopping for this new computer, but I'm really fucking excited about that. So it will just enhance the streams overall. In every weekday, pretty much, it has been somewhere around like 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern time start time, and it usually runs for like 3, sometimes even 4 hours. Been really, really fun. Community is tight knit, and that's exactly how I like it. So if you're missing the live streams, that's the place to go to. If you don't like Twitch, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. And also, I should warn you that analysis is not the forefront. It's really not like a, hey man, look at this shitcoin here. It's more so like, hey, we'll kind of hang out, do a little bit of trading here, watch some Bitcoin, watch some traditional markets, watch some Forex, but of course, because it is Twitch, the focus is on gaming. Anyways, before we get into the analysis as well, I want to remind myself to say that all of the indicators have been brought back online for subscription activity. The link is in the description below for both that and actually Twitch, by the way. On crowntrading.net, just go to subscriptions, and that means that the Jewel is back as well. So check it out there. I always want to say, with all of those indicators, if you do not already have your risk management, your position management, or your taking profit strategies down, those are not magic pills. They will not satisfy, and they will not fix major glaring issues with trading strategy. So if you're still looking for trading strategy, I obviously have the TA program, also the TA 101 playlist, which is 100% free on YouTube here. But I always want to be very, 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 very straightforward with that, because if you are still, if you're not already profitable, they ain't going to make an unprofitable trader a profitable trader. You still need to know your risk management, as that is the key critical point. Even though they are pretty damn powerful tools. Anyways, with all of that said, I think it's time for me to wish you the best, also the happiest, because I want to get into this analysis, man. And I'm trying to make it a little bit on the faster side today, because I'm hungry as fuck. Anyways, I'm pressing that button, baby. And there she goes. And actually, first I should start off with showing my position here. I haven't done this in a while, because I haven't really been taking these medium-term positions in a while, but I'm still holding about 100,000 contracts long on my streamer account that I started right around 7,800. This position was about 4 times bigger as of yesterday. I took profit on 3/4 of it during the Twitch stream, and want to follow up on that. And I'm happy to stay long here, essentially as long as we're doing the next big thing that I want to talk about, and that is something that Bitcoin hasn't done since... How long ago was it? Back on over here in October. So we got October, November, December. So like 3 months. 3 months. The first time that Bitcoin has done this in 3 months. We actually have an uptrend on a daily. And the reason why yesterday's price action was pretty damn interesting and pretty damn significant is because not only did we confirm a higher low right here, right around 7,800, 7,850-ish region, but we actually closed on a higher high on a daily total closing basis. Pretty damn big deal to myself, and this is why I was speaking about the last drops of hopium for the Bitcoin bulls yesterday, which was pretty much to be decided on the 2-day. Obviously, the dailies, going to be closing coinciding with that as well, and more importantly, we did close the 2-day well above that critical 8150-ish region, which I do believe makes the upside a little bit more likely here, at least in the short and medium term timeframes. I should actually say that the very, very short term timeframes looks to me like a little bit of a pullback. We'll get into that later. Not as important, but at the end of the day, that does keep the hopium alive for the bulls here. And again, this is a change of behavior, because we literally haven't seen an uptrend even on a daily going back as far as about 3 months ago in October. on this failed rally attempt over here. So, it doesn't mean that we're going to get it all the way through. And of course, I do want to highlight the macro here as well. Nothing's changed here. We are still living well below the long-term downtrend, coming in from our highs at 14,000 in June, more than 6 months ago. And that would be meeting around the 84 to 8,500-ish region right here in this blue box territory, of which we got rejected from earlier this week. So if Bitcoin does reapproach that region, I actually would be looking to likely hedge off my position or take profit, whatever it ends up being. I'll decide in the moment. For right now, I don't really think that there's any threat of that area getting hit during the weekend action. Probably happens sometime early next week if it is going to happen. But more importantly, as long as we're living below this long-term downtrend coming in again from our highs at 14,000, which has gotten all of our highs very, very well. This guy right here, 14,000, 13,000 right here, 12,500 right here, 10,500 right here, and more recently 8,500 right here, or almost 8,500. As long as we're living below that, it's hard to be long-term bullish. But we do have things changing around the lower-term time frames. So I do believe that if Bitcoin is going to reverse the trend here on the macro, it actually probably does come from this current area. Not only that, but we do see that nice contraction of volume over a long period of time. I believe this is best seen on perhaps a weekly. Yes, indeed it is. And this is telling me that this falling channel is getting more and more mature as time goes on, of course. But what this actually would suggest, to counterpoint what I just said, is that we're actually not going to really be statistically likely for a break until around this area right here, which is in middle of March, it looks like. Middle of March, maybe even April. So at the end of the day, a falling channel, which is what we are in right here, as far as the greater macro picture goes, actually typically do break out to the upside. More statistically speaking, it is more likely, but the timing component of that can take quite some time, and there's no reason why there's no reason yet to believe that we are fully and formally reversing on the macro, which again is dictated by the weekly for Bitcoin. And realistically for Bitcoin, the weekly trend has gotten pretty much everything perfectly since the dawn of time for Bitcoin. Any reversal on a weekly schedule, meaning a higher high and a higher low, or vice versa for a lower high and a lower low consecutively, those have been your major massive gainers. 70% moves to the downside, major massive swaths of price action to the upside. And in this case right here, the problem is that not only are we living below this long-term downtrend, but even if we were to break back above it, we ain't making higher highs and confirming a reversal on a weekly until we get back above our last prior high, which is right here at about 9,500. So I always want to go back to that fact and highlight it out, because while I do think that the low and medium timeframes are looking a little bit promising here and showing some life, at the end of the day, it's still not necessarily time to get like super excited just yet. But I'll show a few things that'll provide some hopium. Don't know how much I believe in them, but I am, I'm happy to just trade it right now. So I really want to focus once again on the priority of this channel, which is talk to the traders out there, not the moon boys, not the doom boys, but to the fucking traders, and realize that you don't really need to know what's going to happen next in order to make money. Just need to know how to trade. And at this point in time, this is a trader's market realistically, because we are ranging pretty fucking hard. And if we do begin to trend, well, just ride it. But again, the point of inflection has very much been unchanged and is very much visible to all. So that area is still the area to be aware of, in my opinion. But I want to go back down here to the daily to focus on this a little bit more. So not only do we confirm a higher low right here and close on a higher high, which I do think is significant, we actually closed above the 200 exponential average as well on the daily, which is significant. We do see that the daily Stokes actually still pointed up, still pointed north. We do see that daily RSI is more or less healthy, although getting rejected from the bullish control zone currently speaking, which does make me think that maybe we get a low time frame pullback here. Overall, this is looking better and better. As far as the daily goes, we do see that volatility is still contracting over the whole. In fact, if we were to draw kind of a regression through this area, you do see that it really, really lines up very well with what we just looked at on the weekly falling channel, right? Which would suggest a breakage point somewhere in middle of March is where this becomes very statistically likely to actually break. So would it be premature for Bitcoin to actually approach this area right here and break it? Are we looking for perhaps a little bit too much? I think so, yes. I think it's more likely that Bitcoin does pop up around this region again, anywhere between 8,500 and even the 200 simple on the daily. Still probably going to find some resistance within that region. Not only that, the 200 simple on the daily is coming in right around the 382 Fibonacci retracement as well. So a lot of structural things to be aware of right there. And even at that price point, it would still be at a lower high from our weekly standpoint. So I do want to scale this back one more time. and say that, hey, we've had a very, 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 very similar signature over here to what we've seen many times in Bitcoin's past, but I'll highlight this last one just because it's more recent and we can get them both on the same page. But basically, all the major moving averages turned into a bearish posture right here after a rejection of the white 200 simple. So you see this right here, boom, very, very similar to what we see over here. Again, not a fucking fractal squirrel, so don't get too excited about that. But because we have a nice piece of technical analysis edge, we can standardize price action around that, and the reaction of price action around these, around these major moving averages does give us insight into, how the bots and algos are handling this over time. Anyways, so we get that rejection right there, coming off of a failed rally in a bear market, in a downtrend essentially, and then we get the death cross right here between the green and the purple, same thing right here, death cross. Then we get all lower pairs below higher pairs right here with the cyan and the purple, with same thing right here. We get Bitcoin below all major moving averages soon after that, booms all the way down, and we are trending to the downside as long as we're below the yellow 21 exponential moving average, and until we actually regain it over here, the low has not been put in. We get something similar over here. In fact, Bitcoin's trending, catches the 21, boom, massive rally, and you do kind of see a similar formation here as well. This one's a little bit more of an obvious inverted head and shoulders. This one over here, I do not believe is an inverted head and shoulders. I think that the people calling that are very much wrong. If you want to go buy the book, but you don't need to go buy the fucking book to understand that that is a bullish accumulation formation. It's a descending broadening wedge. The target essentially is the same. The implied area is the same. So does it really matter? Do you really need to excuse me, actually not an inverted head and shoulder? It's the same fucking thing. In a sense, it's the same implied thing in a sense. Anyways. As you can see over here, not only do we have all that price action going, but we were even living below this long-term downtrend coming in all the way from our middle of January highs right here. And where did we get rejected from on that next major rally attempt? Well, right around the 200 simple, which is also in line, this white moving average right here, which is also in line pretty much with that long-term descending trend line. I'm also curious how much from bottom to top this rally was. About 44%. Okay, very interesting. Anyways, it's very, very similar action to right on over here, right? The 200 simple is looming overhead. We do see this long-term descending trend line coming in right around this region as well. And I'm curious how much we've actually rallied off the lows thus far, 35%. If we were to extend that to the 200 simple, where would that put us at? About 42.5%, again, also in line with all these areas right here. So do we get a wick up there and get rejected? Perhaps yes. But I would say, even as long, while we do have this long-term downtrend resistance, I don't necessarily rate it all that high. It's a 200 simple that I'd put a little bit more weight on, and that still has a pretty aggressive negative slope, and it just got started too. So I'm not so hot for that right now. It feels very, 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 very cold actually. But I just want to show that we could have some upside here in the short and medium term timeframes and still not turn around the overall macro trend. And I'm not saying that the macro trend can't turn around. It's just I'd really rather wait for it to actually fully and formally confirm itself. I mean, for all the people hunting for a reversal over here during 2018, all you had to do was just play the fucking weekly trend and understand that we didn't get an uptrend on the weekly until literally March of 2019 on the breakthrough 4,000. Anyways, as it stands for Bitcoin, I do believe that medium term it is bullish as long as we are above this last higher low that we set in. I think on Mexico it's about 7,850. No, it's actually more like 7,800 even. So it is pretty consistent amongst all major exchanges. So 7,800, a little bit above 7,800. As long as we maintain that area on a daily closing basis, even a 12-hour closing basis, probably good enough. I do think that we try again a little bit higher, probably somewhere around 85, maybe 8,600, something like that in this next blue box territory right here, where we got rejected from a little bit prior, maybe even a little bit higher than that to 8650-ish region. Anyways, we do have a few good things going on right now. We do see the yellow 21 exponential moving average approaching rapidly the green 55 exponential moving average, which typically do get those nice daily medium term trends pretty damn well. Not always, but you can see it got our last short extremely well from 10.3. One of the reasons why we got bearish over there, amongst many others. Also, just the weekly trend changing. Anyways, never got the bullish cross all the way through, even on that move above 10,000 routed over here. And once again, we are getting damn close on each other, but not crossing just yet. But with this sort of price action right here, it does look more or less good, I would say. So fair enough. And with momentum oscillators also pointed north, I do think that bodes relatively well. Looking at the 2-day, I do consider this a rejection of the potential death cross that we saw between the 50 and the 200, the green and the purple right here. Once again, closing on a higher point, and we do see that 2-day momentum oscillator is also looking good. 2-day Stokes well up there. 2-day RSI is. 2-day RSI is interesting here because we actually still do have a chance to make hidden bearish divergence. This is the problem here. We have a chance to make hidden bearish divergence essentially as long as we're below like 9,000, unfortunately. So that makes it very, very difficult. Now we did get a decent buy signal on the 2-day jewel. Well, not a decent one. This one's not picture perfect, but it was like a continuation buy signal from the 3rd of January. It looks like it's actually coming off the lows. If you did, if you did even take that, 2 days later, trying to make it look even worse. It's still a move from like 7,300 to like 8,500. So more than $1,000 move. Has it one already played out? I think that you could make the argument for that. Yes. Anyways, I also do want to show another thing. I just want to show. I'm not going to go too much into detail because I'll go into it on detail tomorrow. But the hash ribbons for Bitcoin, which have accurately gotten Bitcoin's macro price action extremely well for the eternity of its life. Now it does not get momentum well, but it does call the lows very well. So let me explain this. I've gone through multiple times now on video, so you're probably already familiar with this. But if you're not, what we're looking at here is the hash ribbons indicator on TradingView. And anytime we've gotten a buy signal on this, it does not say that Bitcoin can't come down from that point. It can, but it does suggest that the prior low, doesn't suggest, it quite literally says that the prior low from before that, it will remain the low and we will not close below there on a daily total closing basis. And, maybe the momentum takes like another few months to resume to the upside, like this guy right over here. We get the buy signal right here, right? We get the buy signal right here. This was your last low before that at 3,100. Bitcoin does reapproach that region, and it's a terrible timing of momentum, but the low is safe. It's in, even though we do pretty much retest it. This one over here was actually a pretty good signal for both momentum and timing, just momentum or timing in general. We got this guy right here. Terrible one for timing because Bitcoin, it does rally up and it does come back down. Straight to that point from the signal given, but we don't close on lower lows from that point. Same thing, this guy right here, even worse, and this guy right here, even worse. But again, we do not close on a daily total closing basis below the prior low before that, after the signal was given. This guy over here was actually a pretty damn good one for timing. This guy over here was pretty damn good one for timing as well. This guy over here, a little bit less good, but also on the money. And this guy right here, pretty good as well. So what would that mean? That would mean that historically speaking, we are unlikely to close below this last low that we have on the daily at 6,600. Does that mean that we can't reapproach it? Yes, we can reapproach it. But if this indicator is going to resume its validity over time, we would expect it not to close on a daily total closing basis below 6,600. But we can retest that region again, and we can get wicks below as well. But on a closing basis, I would not expect it to go below there, and it would suggest that the low is in for this cycle. That's just what the data says. I'm not saying that I believe that or not. I mean, at the end of the day, Bitcoin's still in a downtrend, and I'm not like the biggest fan of this price action. But I do think that that's it's fun to talk about the hopium right now, man. It gets more views on fucking YouTube, and it's like trying to play the game on hard mode right now. It's like, can we find a low somewhere? maybe. Anyways, let's go down to the lower term time frames now. We'll start off with a 4 hour. Everyone loves a 4 hour. It's like a crypto high time frame, even though it's not. I don't really think that I don't really think that we have too many obvious things here. We do have the golden cross in the 4 hour between the green and the purple. We did find our lows yesterday off that region at 76.50. I forgot to talk about that and follow up through that. Remember yesterday we did say that it was likely to come down to 76.50. That got front ran by about $30. So Krown's wrong again. I know someone's gonna say that in the comments. Like I sometimes I read the comments, which I probably shouldn't, and people need to be very exact with these things. If you don't call it to like the fucking dollar, it's like you deserve all hell. It's like, okay, I understand that it's not the purpose to be exact on this, and I do feel like I've been pretty damn good with it recently. or overall, to be quite honest, like not trying to toot my own horn, but it's good. It's good to have some perspective, I suppose. Anyways, so for right now, as far as the lower term timeframes go, I actually don't see anything too obvious here. The only obvious things are the ones that are staring you in the face. Our last 4-hour high, right around 83.50. As long as we're below there, no breaking out to the upside. However, I do believe that we need to let the lower term timeframes throughout this weekend just kind of show us where they want to fall. As long as we're not seeing 4-hour delta closures below 77.50, I think overall we probably get reaccumulate in this region, get another try. But that means that we could come all the way back down to 78.50, 7800. That same area on the daily. So the daily actually gets a price action very, 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 very well here. And I do think that looking at the lower timeframes is going to be nothing more than a distraction during this weekend, because we're not really getting anything too obvious from it. Momentum oscillators are still up. To be fair, we do see 4-hour up, 3-hour up, 2-hour pointed down, and hour at least going to be down as well. So a little bit of bifurcation, which says that we probably do pull back into this region. I don't really have a specific target for this. I think 79.50 is relatively likely. Below there, then 78.50, 7800 is kind of where I'd be looking towards. And as long as we remain above 7800, bias is still on the daily trend, I suppose, for the medium term time frame. So that represents it pretty damn well. So I would be looking for a nice rally attempt off there. And just like yesterday, when I said that Bitcoin was likely to come down to 76.50 and bounce from there, I don't have necessarily a bounce target. I couldn't have told you that this was going to happen. I only know, or I don't know anything, but what I only can postulate and as a trader look at where we're going to close at today. So that was the key thing. It's like, okay, we're very likely to come down here. That one's easy enough. But after that, we need to just analyze the bounce and see where it gets, and then look at the next relevant time frame, which was the 2-day delta closure, which was yesterday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and that was pretty damn good above the area that I think keeps the hopium alive for the bulls, at least in the medium term. Long term, still down. Medium term, okay. So yeah, we are seeing bifurcation in lower time frames, so that tells me that we probably do come down. And I do think that 79.50 probably, a likely target. If things get a little more crazy after that, then 7,800-ish, to 7,800 to 78, 50 perhaps, something like that. And then I'd look for a bounce there. If Bitcoin does not bounce there, problems, big fat problems. But for right now, it's okay, and the lower time frame's not really giving us too much other than that. We can go over here and check out expected moves with regards to historical volatility percentile. And what do we have? Fucking perfectly said by the expected moves chart, which is exactly what I want to see as well. I mean, it's not about what I want to see, but it's lovely that it aligns very well with what we said on the daily, and that is, we see the first standard deviation showing a range between about 78.50 to the downside and to the upside about 83.50-ish region. So again, if Bitcoin even can trade back above 83.50, I do think that we will see another leg up to about 85, 86 sometime this next week. And by the same token, if we do trade down a little bit today, I do think that, somewhere in this region right here, we likely will bounce, and the bounce probably is going to be fine. But if 7,800 breaks, that is problem city for Bitcoin. And I would say it's a little bit unlikely. To be fair, it is outside of the first standard deviation to the downside, so it's less than a 16% chance to happen today. Just like to get, just like to break out to the upside is probably, it's in between the first and the second standard deviation, so it's probably like somewhere around a little bit less than 10% chance to happen. What's most likely to happen today? It's a fucking weekend, man. It's Saturday. We're probably not going to be breaking ranges. We're probably just going to be filling ranges out and frustrating day traders. And realistically, on a weekend, should really just be postulating for the next big week's price action on like all the major pivots that you want to be taking trades off of, rather than wasting your time looking at this bullshit right here. But hey, I'm not here to tell you what to do. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I very, very rarely will open up trades on a weekend, even if it's just for a scalp. Very rarely will I do that. So I do like what this is saying right here. It's basically saying that, we're probably gonna have a little bit of a downwards range for the weekend. But again, as long as 78.50, especially 7,800 does not break, looks okay. Not great, not phenomenal, but okay. Historical volatility percentile on the lower term timeframes is telling us that we are still contracting. So that aligns well with us probably popping down to test the bottom side of the range a little bit, put in perhaps a higher low somewhere in this region here, anywhere between 79 and 85.50, or sorry, 78.50 would be, probably pretty damn good for the bulls. But this is again telling us, on the hourly and 2 hour that we're gonna go through a phase of contraction here. So, if this is going to be a bullish reaccumulation formation in the shape of like perhaps postulating an idea here that it's some sort of an ascending triangle or symmetrical triangle or something like that, then we should expect some downside in the lower term timeframes, and then hopefully put in, or at least for the bulls, hopefully put in some sort of a higher low here. Again, if 7,800 breaks, even on like a 12 hour or even on like a 4 hour, really, it's going to be problems for Bitcoin, I'd imagine. Will very likely come back down to 7,500 and probably lower than that over time. But again, that's a little bit well and far away, and I think it's actually a little bit less likely to happen here. I think Bitcoin is going to try another leg up, and then probably get rejected somewhere in like the middle of the 8,000s. That would be my personal opinion right now. What I do want to look at actually is Mrs. Litecoin, who might be showing the way. Mrs. Litecoin, very powerful move and very powerful closure yesterday night. And it's kind of been living in the same downwards channel, coming in all the way from the June highs, all the way at about $150. So Litecoin did actually confirm a damn good close. We are making new highs above our late November breakdown as well, which I do think is significant. We didn't close on new highs, but we actually have wicked up to new highs, which is a pretty damn good signal. And I would say that for Litecoin has a very obvious play here. Litecoin has a very, very obvious play here. In fact, as long as Litecoin remains above this pivot right here, which is about $46.50, 46 and a quarter, we'll call it. I do think that it's actually, medium term and long term kind of breaking out here. I would roll with that. And technically speaking, the next areas of interest are going to be somewhere around like 56, somewhere in this little starter step right here between 55 and 56, it looks like, on that next leg. And with the weekly closing relatively soon as well, I'd say that if the weekly closes above the 10 simple, that's going to look pretty good for a test to the 21 on the weekly, which again is right in line with that $56 target. So things are looking better here. For some of the alts, which I do think the market typically moves together. So if we do see healthiness in some of the alts, it likely does round out the bias on Bitcoin, probably testing up a little bit higher. Again, I'm not necessarily calling a reversal just yet, but I do think that we probably test higher here sometime into next week. Looking at Mr. Buterin, not same thing. Actually, not same thing at all. Mr. Buterin is weak. It would be relatively weak here. It's nowhere near testing this long-term downtrend. Unlike Mrs. Litecoin, it did take out this more rudimentary one, but that one's not that important. And if Bitcoin moves up, I'd probably look for Mr. Buterin to test somewhere right around like 151 region, 151 rum. I'm sure that there's a few other alts to be taken care of. What about Mr. Ripple's nipples? We got 21 cents here. Definitely weak compared to the other ones, but if Bitcoin moves up, it's probably going to fall as well. What about EOS? EOS a little bit on the stronger side, I would say. In fact, let's get rid of all this. And this is one of the few times that actually will go through all the altcoins just to see what the bias is. We actually are taking out this area. We did close above it yesterday, and next area of interest is going to be all the way up here, in fact, before this breakdown that we saw in early November, somewhere right around 334. What about NEO? Definitely not as strong. What about Tron Cash? Okay. Not beautiful. What about Bcash? Bcash is actually one of the strongest ones, to be fair here. Bcash and Litecoin are kind of the strongest ones. In fact, I'm going to get rid of all of this because, again, it's a little bit convoluting. But something like this, what we're looking at. Close above the 200 exponential moving average, getting rejected by the 200 simple. That's kind of what I'm thinking for Bitcoin right now. If it can actually base around here and just not break down back below this region, then fine. But the second that it breaks back down below 247, big fat problems once again, and we'll likely come back down to like low $200 after that. And it's still a macro lower high right here, to be fair. Like the weekly trend is still very much down, but this one really starting to formulate itself as a if we can close the weekly above here, this will be a confirmed break of the falling channel. Does Bcash lead the mark to the upside? Maybe. We technically would have a target all the way around 378 region. So not bad. And we do see a lot of things kind of in confluence in this market right now. So that's it's good, and it does help the upside a little bit more. But again, I want to be very clear in stating this. If Bitcoin even closes, or if Bitcoin even closes below like 7,850, really fucking bad. 7,800, no excuses after that. Very likely it would come back down to like below 74, 7,500-ish region, base somewhere again in the low 7,000s. But it's a little bit further away from happening at this point in time. So I would rather, I'd rather talk about the upside here because again, hopium, baby, shoot me up with that hopium, you motherfucker. Anyways, we talk about everything we want to talk about. I think we didn't really talk about the 12-hour just yet. 12-hour still coming down. Actually still getting momentum down, which is a little bit scary as well. 12-hour RSI is more neutral than anything, but if a slight bullish twist, I suppose. We do see the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average coming in around 79.50-ish region. So the areas of interest to the downside here for the bulls, looking for bounces, would be around 79.50 and then 78.50 to 7800-ish region. Both those areas critical. Obviously, the lower one, the most important, because, well, that's where we actually start to destroy this structure. But for now, this is, this is a breakout out of the descending Brawny wedge, or Jesus Christ, man, it's a breakout out of this descending Brawny wedge right here. Kind of retested the former high as support. It held up valiantly yesterday, so I do put some weight on that. If Bitcoin is gonna reverse, I actually do think that it comes again from this area. It's just gonna take some time, most likely. Okay, cool. So we pretty much beaten that horse to death. We're already 30 minutes in. Let's go talk about traditional markets for a second here. Closed on a down note to end the week. Overall, though, the weekly is still very powerful. I do think that next week opens maybe a little bit down, maybe trades back down to like 322, 323 region, and then probably another resumation of uptrend. Once again, we can move up the point of bullish failing to 320 and a half. As long as it maintains 320 and a half, it's still massively bullish on the medium and higher time frames. Lower term time frames, again, I do think kind of pull back coming into next week a little bit. But overall, it'd still be bullish on it long term. And again, contrary to what the crypto anarchists want you to believe, Bitcoin success is at the current moment in time frame combined with this asset. In fact, if we go over here and load up the good old correlation coefficient and R squared chart, which is currently on dollar Chinese yuan, which fucking so many people are talking about this, which should I just show that right now? So many people have been trying to fit this piece of garbage together. Chinese yuan versus American dollar. And saying that it's correlated. Well, if you just look straight up at the correlation coefficient, it is printing a 0.71. However, the devil is in the details on the R squared here, extremely low. So how much of that data actually fits? Very little, very fucking little. Anyways, let's go over and check out traditional markets here. So we're going to be looking at the same sort of things with Bitcoin. We want to go to the macro. Actually, even on the daily, it's pretty good. Daily has a correlation coefficient of 0.58 and R squared of 0.47, which is decent. I mean, literally, the last one that we looked at to put in perspective was like something rather like 2.1 or some shit like that. But we should really be looking at this on a monthly is what we should be doing. And look at this, even better. We have a correlation coefficient of about 0.5, but more important, the R squared, how good this fits. 0.67, really fucking good. So a strong traditional market, is likely good for Bitcoin. And looking at it in the background here on the line chart, you do see that, on the whole, they move pretty well together. I'll go into depth on this tomorrow, but the idea that I want to kind of postulate here, and that we'll go into on depth again tomorrow, is that Bitcoin and traditional markets seem to move together on the macro. Bitcoin typically tops out earlier, and the traditional markets always in the past have made new highs after that initial topping out, and then Bitcoin typically falls, a few months later. So traditional markets making new all-time highs for the last few months is historically very good for Bitcoin. And another thing that would make me think that Bitcoin does turn the corner here and resume bullish and has some bullish continuation from this price point. So fair enough. Anyways, okay, back on over here. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about? Let's talk about some Forex really quick. Let's talk about gold. Let's talk about gold. Gold hit our target right around here. 1610, pretty damn good. Weekly close as a massive fucking rejection. But the daily reveal is that we probably are going to get another test back up at least to like 1580-ish region. And I would say it's very similar to Bitcoin here as well. as long as we maintain this higher low right here, I actually don't really have a huge issue with it, and I should actually technically still be bullish on it, even though this is a selling climax, even though we hit the target and we're probably coming down. I would actually still go with that, because we did, all gold did was retest the prior high of this consolidation early September, and so far so good. A very good reaction off that region. So I do think that's going to trade back up here, and the next sort of revealing piece of price action is going to be, okay, does gold, gold very likely retest this area right here, 1575, but do we close above that region? If we do, I'd look for a full-on move into this territory, like 1620, 1630-ish region. It looked pretty good. And again, another asset that actually not as correlated with Bitcoin as people would have you to believe. In fact, we see a bigger correlation between SPY and Bitcoin than we do gold and Bitcoin. In fact, I'll just show it right here. Why not? If I'm going to say something like that. Now, the correlation coefficient, once again, very high. R squared, extremely low for gold, but that's on a daily. Let's go to a weekly. R squared, pretty decent here. Again, not as good as SPY, and correlation coefficient on a weekly is okay. It's actually pretty low, and it's been diminishing for a while, but yeah, fair enough. Just kind of offhand, because I know a lot of people talk about that, but yeah, I actually do think that gold is trying to put in a higher low here, at least on a daily. So short term, I'd be looking for another test to the upside. Dollar yen, how did we close the weekly? Ooh, closes a rejection once again, but I would still give it the benefit of the doubt. All I need to see is daily dollar close above 109.65, and I'd actually target a move all the way up here towards like 110.5, 111 maybe. But getting rejected there, not the best sign. And if it does trade back down below, let's call it 109 even, bearish. Pound yen still, if this thing does trade back above 144.1, I'd be bullish on it to actually, a much bigger extended move all the way maybe back up to like 148.5. But as long as we're below that region, it's technically more bearish than not. We're still making lower highs on the weekly, and this is yet again another rejection of the 200 simple on the weekly. Euro dollar, what do we see here? 111, very bad close to end the weekly. I think that the dollar is a little bit too strong for most of the trading pairs. Technically speaking, I'd want to see it actually break down below 111 even, but I think that this is bad enough as it is. Does it trade up to start next week? Probably yes, maybe back up to like 111.5, but I don't like that rejection there. I'm not so confident on this one, though. I probably shouldn't talk about this one, or at least I should be very straightforward with saying that. I'm not so confident on this one. But if I had to call it right here, it probably opens up next week, and then if you see a rejection anywhere around 111.5, very likely coming back down to like 110 even. Not going to look too hot. What else do we have? GBTC. How did GBTC close the week out? We haven't even looked at CMEs. God damn. Not so interesting. Actually not so good. In fact, another rejection of this long-term downtrend. What about CMEs? How did CMEs close? 81.30. So we did not close above the 21 exponential moving average on the weekly. Did close a pretty damn good daily, though. I do think that we're going to trade back up here sometime next week, and then the real question is, does Bitcoin get rejected there or not? Now, I would say this: CME, contrary to spot price action, actually does have that beautiful cross of the 10 simple and the 21 exponential moving average, which I do have a strategy video on that in the TA 101 playlist here on YouTube, if you are looking for that. And fair enough. Again, it doesn't imply that we're going to actually break this, but I do think that we probably retest it, and then we'll figure out if it holds through or not. But medium term, I do think that we get that next move up. Anyways, I'll quickly look at Bitcoin dominance. I still think long term I'm bullish on this. Short, medium term, not so sure. Let's see what it looks like over here. Let me make sure that I'm recording. Oh, I am recording. Good, great. 40 minutes in, still recording. Great, good one, Krown, you motherfucker. Anyways, still long-term bullish on it. Short-term, medium-term, not. I don't have strong opinions. Short-term actually it looks like it comes back down to 69.5. So fair enough. Most alts versus Satoshi is not going to be keeping pace with Bitcoin here, it looks like. Although there are a few, as we saw, some of the majors actually are in a little bit of a better place than Bitcoin right now. Anyways, we can wrap up the talk with this. In fact, these blue boxes, which I've had in here for a while, get this price action really, really well. In fact, let's put one more to the downside. Let's put this guy right here. And this is really all that it needs to be. any sort of a daily total close below this lower blue box right here, big fat problems for bulls. As long as we're above it though, we still got higher lows on the daily. Okay, I do put the medium term direction in the side of the bulls. Probably gets another retest back into this region between 85 and 86.50-ish region. But that's going to be the next big test. If Bitcoin does get above there, it's not necessarily time to party just yet. I'll still say the 200 simple plus the 382 fib, which I don't have on this. Oh, I do have it on this chart. And the prior high on the weekly, most importantly, right around 9,500 are going to be the next big deciders for the macro trend. But the medium term trend, good. As long as we maintain this level right here. From the short term, I do think that this blue box, is a nice little basing area. So the areas of interest to the downside on the very low time frames right now, which again I don't put that much weight on, is pretty much where we are right now at what is this, like 80.50 is the bottom side of this blue box. If this area fails, I would look for a move down here to 79.50. If 79.50 fails, then yes, this next the last of the Mohicans for the blue boxes down here is going to be the most important one. But those are the potential bounce areas that I look at. Although I'm not really too inclined to be trading this weekend action. And on top of that, if Bitcoin can even close a 4-hour dildo above this last prior high at 83.50, I'd look for extension to 85, 8600. And then, the next big test comes up. Likewise, I should talk about the downside. If we do break, the prior low that we just put in yesterday at about 78.50-ish region, I would look for extension all the way down here overall below 7,500, and we'll come back and analyze it after that. For now, it's kind of like a wait and see type thing, with areas of interest very well defined, which has been kind of like, the par for the course for the last week, couple weeks of price action, which, has been really all that it needs to be. Anyways, that's going to do it for today. I want to wish you well. Once again, I'm going to go eat a shit ton of food and maybe do a live Twitch stream later. I'm not sure just yet. I do need to buy some more computer parts, which is really, it's kind of like my hobby right now, which I really enjoy. But yeah, man, take care. And until next time.